Yes, sir. Yes. Okay, fine, fine. Okay. Framework which we are going to use is hybrid frameworks. The reason why we call it as a hybrid framework is, okay, we are using, okay, since in order to test the application or we are testing this application with multiple data which is kept in national system. Okay, so that is the reason we call our framework as data driven. Okay, and we, in order to avoid writing the repetitive steps, we use methods. We use reusable methods. Okay, that is the reason we call our framework as method driven, and we maintain our framework based on the module ones. That's the reason we call our framework as modular driven. Since we are using more than one framework, okay, that's the reason we call our framework as hybrid framework. Okay, in our framework, okay, there are 8 major components like generic library, okay, object repository, and then data, okay, and then data which is called as test data, okay, and then resources which contains what? Chrome driver.exe file, Vigo driver.exe files. Okay, then we have test scripts, okay, which contains what? All the test cases. And then we have batch runner. Since we are implementing the test engine, we have batch runner in order to perform batch execution. Okay, and then we have HTML report in order to take the report or in order to generate the report automatically from the with help of test engine. And at last is screenshot. These are the 8 major components, okay, available in our framework. Okay, in the beginning of the execution, okay, in the beginning of the execution, base class will be executed, which contains before class, before method, before, after method, and then after class. You can tell it as after test also. Both are same. Okay, which contains, okay, before class contains opening the browser, code for the opening the browser. In before method, which contains the code for login. In after method, which will contain the code for the logout. In after class, which contains code for the closing the browser. Okay. First, it will execute base class, okay, which contains all the configuration methods. Okay, then it will execute the test cases. Okay, by calling the necessary methods present in the form classes. By calling the necessary methods present in the form class, and also it will take the data from the. It will also take the data from the property file and the Excel file. Okay, with the help of generic methods which is written in the file. Like this, it will execute all the test cases present in the test script package or test package. Once the execution is completed, okay, it will execute what? It will execute what? After class annotation, which contains closing browser. 1 second. While executing all the test cases, it will perform action on the application. That is nothing but GUI, whatever I mentioned. Okay, then, okay, it is going to execute all the 1000 test cases with the help of what? Batch, which contains what? Which contains testng.xml file, soup file, which contains testng.xml soup file. Once executing all the 1000 test cases on all the test cases, okay, it will generate the report automatically since we are using testng, which is present inside test output folder, which contains number of test cases are passed, number of test cases failed, and number of test cases skipped. Okay. Then once, okay, then it will take the screenshot automatically since we have, okay, listener implementation class. We have implemented listener feature which is present in testng. Okay, whenever the test case is getting, and it will present under this screenshot folder. Sorry. Okay, this is what I want you to explain. This much. Whatever I have explained, one more time I will explain it. Take down the notes. Okay. This is what I want to explain. Just look at the diagram. By looking at the diagram, explain it. Okay. You can explain either way, guys. But I want the flow. That's it. Don't stop. Okay, first what it will execute, then what, like that. Why do we call it as hybrid framework? What do you mean by a framework? You can also tell that. What do you mean by framework? Why do we call this as an hybrid framework? In that we are using what? Three frameworks. One is data-driven framework, method-driven framework, okay, and then one more is what? Modular-driven framework. That's the reason, since we are using more than one framework, it is called as hybrid. Then you can start explaining it all eight major components. Okay, take down this. I'll explain one more time. Okay, take it. Is it visible? Okay. This is one way. This is very lengthy. Another way also. Which point? 8 point? What 8 point? Yes, sir. 8. Okay, one second. One second. This is the second way of explaining. Either you can choose first one or second one. Both are the okay. Both is fine. Okay, but diagram is common. Diagram is this only. Okay, diagram is this. This is the diagram. Okay. Let me explain this one more time. Here, what is a framework? You can tell what is framework. Framework is a what? Set of rules and guidelines and best practice to be followed while automating any application. Okay. In order to test the application with multiple data, we're going to keep the data in an Excel file. Okay, and then we're going to test the data. So that is the reason we call our framework as data-driven framework. Okay. So in order to avoid repetitive steps, we use reusable methods. That's the reason we call our framework as method-driven framework. Since we are maintaining our framework based on the module wise, so we call our framework as modular-driven framework. Since we are using more than one framework, we are going to call our framework as hybrid framework. In the beginning of the execution, okay, it will execute the base class. It will execute the configuration methods present in the base class. First, it will execute before class, which contains opening the browser. Then it will execute before method, which contains the login. Then it will execute the test cases, which is present in the test package, com.architect.test package. Whenever it executes the test cases, okay, it will call the necessary methods present in the form class. By taking the necessary data which is present in the test scheme.xlsx with the help of Apache PyCharts. Like this, and then it will perform action on the browser or GI application. Like this, it will execute all the test cases one by one. Since we are using TestNG, it will execute or it will perform batch execution with the help of TestNG.xml source file. Once it executes all the 1000 test cases or all the test cases present in the test package, okay, it will close the browser. Since okay, TestNG will create the default reports, okay, which contains number of test cases passed, number of test cases failed, and number of test cases skipped, which will be present in the test output code. Since we are using listener implementation, okay, since we are using listener feature which is present in the test engine, it will take the screenshot whenever the test case is getting failed. Because we have written the screenshot program inside the on-test file of listener class. Because this is what I want you guys to explain this. Anyway, at least there is one way. Another way you can start with what is framework. It contains 8 major components. Okay, generic library, okay, object repository, okay, and test data, resources, test script, batch runner, HTML report, and last just a screenshot. Okay, then you can explain this one by one. Generic library. Generics is a library of classes which contains reusable methods which is used for any projects. A UI framework of generic library can contain the following basic classes. Like file name classes like this, you can explain all these things step by step. Also, you can explain. And here I am using before class. Okay, then you can tell before class or before. Okay, anything. Okay, you can tell. Since we are using before test, you can tell this in before test of the place of before. Okay, first question. Okay, I am going to take. Okay, today also I'm going to take the mock. One more round of mock I'll be taking. I'll be taking one more round of mock as well. In that mock, first question I will ask you about the frame. Okay, and now I want anyone to explain this frame. Anyone who is going to explain the frame. Who will explain the framework? Okay, modular driven, if you want, okay, means for an example here, okay, what modular is. Here we may, instead of create customer, delete customer, modify customer, creating separate classes, one classes for all these test cases. Module wise like customer module, which contains create customer, delete customer, modify customer. Like that, we are going to maintain module ones. Okay, that is called as modular driven. Okay. Who is going to explain now? Tell me. Anyone explain? If I will. Okay. I will help you. Who will explain? Lavanya will explain. Lavanya is there.
Firstly, I will explain what is framework, sir. Framework is a collection of 100 or 150 decisions. So if we follow, if we use framework, then maintenance and consistency will be there. So that's the reason we use framework. So yeah, for any project, we first we use framework. First, we create inside a first we create three package. One is for generic package. Second one is for object page object model, and third one for script model. We create generic model for writing base class or a file list class and listener implementation class, and we create page object model for so that we can store for individual page, and inside that program we can store all the web element, and we create this script so that we can create all the program inside that package. That is the total generic library, and we create base class. Inside the base class, we write whatever the test method which we want to execute before the class and after the class, and before method and after method, and we create file list class so that we can extend the data which we store in external files like Excel file or a property file to retrieve or fetch the data from that file. We use file list class. and we create listen implementation class. For example, suppose in our project some test method get failed, so that to get to know that which method failed, so we create this listener implementation class. And we also, and we can, in some company, they can create one more class inside the generic, that is prescribed commonly class, to write all the explicit build, implicit build, and the custom mode. Now, second thing we can create, that is page object, that second package. Second package we can create, that is page object model, so that we can, and it is also called as object repository model, and inside that we can write all the inside that title we can create the class name, and inside that class we can write all the web element, and inside that program, using that annotation find by we use that expert or expert or idea or like that we can decide. And yeah, and the second and the next thing, what is data. Data takes data for any project. We have to store some data, like some common data will be there. So we have to keep that common data inside that property file. For example, username, password, or username, password, URL, browser. So we can keep that common data inside that property file, and some data which we want to use in the test script. So we can store that data inside that Excel sheet. So for that we have to create this data, and then is that yeah. Fourth is driver. So inside the driver, how many web browser we want to execute for parallel execution. For example, I want to execute my project parallelly using Chrome browser, also Firefox also. So we have to keep all that exe file inside that driver folder. For example, driver.exe, Chrome driver.exe, like that. And we have to create one screenshot folder also, so that we can, so that if some technical get failed, so it will store, it will take screenshot of that test method, and it will keep that inside that screenshot folder. And next is test script. Inside the test script package, we can create many classes, many test cases, like create customer, delete customer, modify customer, like that. Many test scripts we can write inside that test script package. And yes, and then batch runner. Batch runner is like we can customize our Excel file. Suppose I want to execute parallel execution or cross server execution. For that, we have to modify some. You have to modify some program inside that dot Excel XML file, and yes, sir. And we can get to know that XML file report also, through which my test script is executed, successfully executed or not, or if it is failed, which test method gets failed. We can get to know using that HTML XML report also. That's the that is the way we can make listening framework in education.
Okay. Who's going to explain next? Okay, fine. Who's going to explain next?